Hello, what is up, everybody? It is super exciting today. I'm sure you guys don't know me because this is my first ever episode on the Blast Music platform. So let me introduce myself. My name is Star. Um, it's a derivative from Stargazer Sports, which is my brand, where I am a Cowboys content creator. Um, First, I want to give a huge thanks to the Blast Media company who has allowed me to be on their platform and to start a podcast. Um, if anybody is in the chat, please shout yourselves out. I'm so glad to be here with you guys tonight. Um, just giving you guys maybe a mini introduction of who I am. I am a Dallas native. I have grown up a super Cowboys fan. Whole family is are Cowboys fans. Oh my gosh, we already have a hater in the chat. That's okay. We are Americans, so we're gonna be hated. But anyway, I would like to say that, like I said, I'm a Dallas native, born and raised in Dallas. Whole family are Cowboys fans. But what's exciting is that I really became what you call a Cowboys fanatic in 2020 during the pandemic, where I really started to delve into our team and wanted to take my fandom a little bit to the next level. Reason why I created my own, started off on Twitter, and you guys can see my social medias down below, my Twitter, my Instagram, and my Facebook. So if you guys would please follow me on all those platforms. I have already uploaded much content on my YouTube page, which is Stargazer Sports. But today I am on Blast Music 247 platform, and we are going to get it rocking for my first ever podcast, episode on my podcast. Which is also, this podcast is called Stargazer Sports. So it shouldn't be hard to find me. You can also see my logo down there. If you would like to donate to the channel, you can see scrolling above is my Cash App. So please, if you feel compelled, if you feel it in your heart, please donate to my channel so that I can continue to grow my database, upgrade all the features and different things that I use, because I know y'all see this fun graphic, but this fun graphic took a long time to make, my overlay and things like that. So as you guys donate to the channel, I can just do so much more with my content and putting it out there. And just so you guys know, what is Stargazer about? Stargazer was created to encourage and to build confidence in Cowboys Nation. There's so much hate. You guys know, the real Cowboys fans know. Thank you, Sadiqa. I love Sadiqa. But yes, y'all know that our team gets so much hate, guys. And there's a lot of narratives that are spread about our team that are not true. And unfortunately, if we allow ourselves to just listen to the 3 and 4 letter networks, we will be having wrong thoughts about our front office, our players, our coaches, the way our season went, and everything like that. So I created this platform so that we can get to the real and to the core of who the Cowboys are, which is a historically great, amazing team, the best sports franchise in the world. So that's really who we are, despite what all these narratives try to say. But today, guys, we're going to go ahead. I have a very exciting and fun topic today. Hopefully, you guys can sit back and relax. I know some of y'all just getting off of work, but you can listen to me in the car. You can also, if you're at home, put your feet up, get your popcorn. If y'all drink wine, drink your wine. If you drink a beer, drink a beer. Or if you're just drinking water like me, then drink some water. But other than that, let's get in. I'm super excited to get into this content. So let's go ahead and pull it up here. Just a second. All right, awesome. And y'all give me just a second. I'm gonna just put my video right on up here, so you guys can be sure to see me. And then we'll get this thing rolling. Bam. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the content. So today we are talking about why Mike McCarthy, and some of my viewers here, some of you guys may just be listening audibly. I know that we have the radio station and things like that. So I encourage you guys, if you want to see my beautiful presentation to after you get done listening audibly, go over to Blast Music 247 YouTube page. That way you can actually see my whole beautiful presentation that I have built out. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So today I'm going to be going over part 1 of why Mike McCarthy. If you don't know who Mike McCarthy is, you should know if you're a Cowboys fan. Mike McCarthy is our head coach. But today we will be going over why Mike McCarthy will lead the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl in 2023. Yes, you read that title correctly. Again, it says why Mike McCarthy will, not may, not might, but why Mike McCarthy will lead the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl in 2023. I'm super excited about this presentation, guys. I've been working hard. This is a presentation that I've been planning for a while. We got to break it down in parts because there's a lot of facets to Mike McCarthy, and I really want to get into the core of who Mike McCarthy is. Because we know that there's a lot of narratives that are spread about. Like I said, there's a lot of false narratives that are spread about our team, our coaches, our front office. And so today I want to focus on Coach Mike McCarthy. And we're going to get into the DNA. We're going to get into who is Mike McCarthy. And because in order for us to have confidence, right, that he's going to lead our team to the Super Bowl this upcoming season, which I'm super excited about because training camp is literally right around the corner. We are already essentially in July. July starts next week. So, so we're going to get into the core and the fabric of who Mike McCarthy is. That way we can have confidence in him. Because if you didn't know, Coach Mike McCarthy has been with our team since 2020, right? But what he was not doing that he is doing this year is calling the plays. Yes, that is correct. You heard it right. Coach Mike McCarthy will be calling the plays for the Dallas Cowboys, which, if you're a Cowboys fanatic like me, this is something that we have literally been begging the football gods to happen. Because we did have an offensive coordinator that we did not feel, although not saying Kellen Moore, shout out to him, he's over there in Chargers land. Not going to sit here and take a crap on Kellen Moore because that's going to take away from Mike McCarthy. But we as Cowboys fans did not believe in Kellen Moore because of the certain ways that he would run the offense, him not having an identity, him not wanting to run the ball, which is who we are historically as a team. There's a lot of issues there. But now we have switched over to Coach Mike McCarthy, who will be calling the plays, which is super exciting because Coach, we know Mike McCarthy is a Super Bowl winning coach. And in the Super Bowl that he won, he called the plays. So let's go ahead and get into our first slide. And y'all give me a second. I'm doubly hearing something in my background. I feel like I'm double hearing. Veep, do you know if we have some background music? Thank you. Thank you, Veep. Veep's awesome. Because I'm like, I think I hear two different beats. It's kind of confusing me. Okay, but anyway, let's go ahead and get into the presentation. Let's go. So, Coach Mike McCarthy. Y'all like this beautiful picture I got of Coach right here? Yeah, see, Star, we do research, so we took it all the way back. This is Mike McCarthy in his heyday. This is when he, if y'all didn't know, Coach is a former player. But let's go ahead and get into it. So we don't know about Coach. I mean, we're just going to talk right now about Mike McCarthy, the person, because before Mike McCarthy became a coach, he was himself, right? And so who we are as people plays into who we are professionally, right? I'm a sports podcaster. I say I'm an attorney by day, a sports podcaster by night. So I have a profession, but before I had that profession, I was a person and I had various accomplishments and personality traits and things like that. So I think it's good for us to talk about Coach Mike McCarthy, the person. So if we go over it, Mike McCarthy is a Pittsburgh, guys. Coach Mike McCarthy is a Pittsburgh native. He's a husband. He's a father of 5 children. Yes, y'all heard that right. He's a father of 5 children, which is crazy. I knew Coach had children, but for some reason, I thought he only had like 2 kids. But in his recent press conference, he literally said he has 5 kids, and his youngest one is 11. So that's kind of crazy. But anyway, Coach Mike McCarthy, he's a husband. He's a father of 5 children. He comes from parents, which was very interesting, that his mom was her secretary, but she also worked in various restaurants, and she also worked for the Peace and Justice Center. And then his father was a firefighter and a police officer and owned a bar, which Mike McCarthy worked at when he was a teenager. And so also you see here in those who are listening, you might not see it, but in my picture that I have here on my display, this is Coach Mike McCarthy. He was a 2-time all-conference tight end at Baker's University. And at Baker's University, he earned his bachelor's in business administration. And then he earned his master's in sports administration. So that is something that is really interesting that I had no idea about. Specifically, I'm talking about him earning his master's in sports administration. And I kind of went through and did some research, and I'm going to go over to my next slide. So I kind of went through and did some research because I thought that was interesting that he had a master's degree. And I wanted to know, like, is this something that's common? But I'm going to get to that in just a second. So you might want to add, you might ask, or you might be in your head asking me, Star, why do we care again? I kind of already went over a little bit about why we care about who he was as a person, but I've laid it all out for us. So why do we care about who Mike McCarthy is as a person before he was a coach? And I have a beautiful quote here by Lord Acton. Lord Acton was a great historian of the Victorian period and one of the greatest classical liberal historians. Liberal historian is just a person, he believed in religious freedom and also personal freedom. So, or individual liberty. He believed in that. So here's a famous quote by Lord Acton. It says, "History is not a burden on the mystery, on the memory, but an illumination of the soul." And I'll read that again. It says, "History is not a burden on the memory, but an illumination of the soul." So when I found this quote, I said, this is exactly why we're looking into who Coach Mike McCarthy is, right? We got to find out who he is. Who's the foundation? Who is this man, right? Who's the man before the coach? Because it illuminates who he is. And if we know who he is as a person, it'll make sense when we see certain characteristics in him as a coach. Okay, so Mike McCarthy's background shows that what? He came from blue collar workers, right? He's born from parents who, he was not born with a silver, what they call a silver spoon in his mouth, right? He grind for everything that he had because his parents were by no means rich. We all know that police officers and firefighters are one of the, if there's any police officers or firefighters that are watching today, we thank you so much for your service and for all you guys do to keep our communities, to protect our communities and keep our communities safe. But we know that those are not positions where you are rich, right? And also, I mean, being a secretary, working in a restaurant like Mike McCarthy's mom did, those are not positions where you're making a whole lot of money. Even being a small business owner, it's enough to, you know, back then you sustained your family, but you're by no means rich. So his parents show us that he came, and then I remember I also told you guys that he actually worked in his dad's restaurant. He actually used to sweep the floors. They said, I found out that he would sweep the floors like every Sunday. His dad brought him on, so brought him in to do that and stuff like that. So Mike McCarthy comes from humble beginnings. But when you go through his history and see where his parents came from, it shows you that he has grittiness and he has toughness, right? Because as I said, he wasn't born with the opportunity. He worked and got every opportunity he worked for every opportunity that he got. Sorry, I was getting lost in my thought, but he worked for every single opportunity that he got. Another thing, and we're going to go into that. Coach Mike McCarthy, I loved making this presentation because I like being able to know more about my coach and who is leading our team, right? Because we know that good players cannot overcome bad coaching. Okay, so anyway, we know that he was a former player, which means that he can speak from a player's perspective. And then y'all remember, well, you may not remember, but one of our controversial picks in this past draft was drafting tight end out of Michigan, Luke Schoonmaker. That is how you say his name, Schoonmaker. The N is silent. And that was one of the most controversial picks that we've had in a long time. A lot of people were upset. It was a reach. It was this. It was that. Everybody was just literally wanted to pull their hair out because we had Drew Sanders on the table and Jalen Hyatt and all these all of these great prospects, and nobody really had Luke Schoonmaker on their list to pick, especially not in the second round, right? But I continuously kept telling people that Luke was brought in. I kept telling people, one, trust the process with Coach Mike. If Mike McCarthy is now leading the offense and he decided to draft a tight end that high, don't you think he would have a plan for him? Ask yourself that. Don't you think Coach would likely have a plan if he were to draft a tight end that high? And then when we see that Coach Mike is a former tight end, it shows you that he knows that position in and out. As y'all can see on the previous slide, I'll go back to it, but Coach was a 2-time all-conference tight end. So he knows about that position, and he knows for the offense that he wants to run, the importance of that position. And you guys may not know, but I did a video on Luke. There are other content creators who did videos on Luke. You should have heard by now, but if you haven't heard, Luke Schoonmaker was brought in because of his blocking ability. His blocking ability is, I'm not going to say it is elite because a lot of people get triggered by that word, right? He's a rookie. You can't say he's elite. Okay. But let's just say his blocking is better than he doesn't block well for a tight end. He's just a good blocker, period. Okay. And so if you looked at our scheme last year, our blocking was not really great from our lead tight end in Schultz, who is now a Texan. Not saying don't go bombard me with film of showing Schultz blocking here and there. I'm not saying Schultz couldn't block at all. It's not what I'm saying. Schultz could block decently, but there were some times that he missed assignments that caused negative plays. The same thing with Jake Ferguson, the same thing with Peyton Hendershot. And so we clearly needed to bring somebody in that we know knows their assignment and not only has the ability to block, but the willingness to block. Okay, so I'm just going over that just to put a little light bulb in your head, knowing that Mike McCarthy is a former tight end and putting that together on probably the reason why he drafted a tight end that high, because he knows the position, he knows the importance of the position and what it will mean for his offense. And then it shows that Mike McCarthy is an educated man, which to me says he's a higher achiever. And that high achieving is in his DNA. And I did some research because I wanted to know, I'm like, well, is it common for coaches, right? Is it common for coaches to get a master's degree? Because if you want to see if something's impressive, you got to kind of measure people according to their peers, right? Because I could say, oh, it's great he has a master's degree. And then you could raffle off 20 great coaches that have master's degrees, and then it wouldn't mean anything. But when you stand out from the rest, that's what makes you unique, and that's what makes you have a level up. So I told you that Mike McCarthy had a master's in sports administration. So that means that he decided to take his education up to the next level of understanding sports at a deeper level. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about coach, because let me tell you, some of your favorite coaches don't have master's degrees, and I'm gonna name them right now. Andy Reid doesn't have a master's degree. Shout out to Andy Reid, just won a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that you got to have a master's degree to win a Super Bowl, because clearly you do not, right? Clearly there's coaches that don't have that. But I'm telling you that our coach does, which makes him stand out from amongst his peers. So Andy Reid doesn't have a master's degree. Sean Payton, who y'all tried to push coach off a bridge for, does not have a master's degree. Mike Tomlin, who everybody loves, who's hasn't had the best of seasons over there in Steelers land recently. But I'm not saying he's not a good coach. He obviously is a good coach. Mike Tomlin does not have a master's degree, and neither does Dan Quinn, because that seems to be who everybody thinks will be replacing Mike. If the the train crashes and burns this year, everybody is just 100% certain that Dan Quinn will be taking the spot. I don't think Dan Quinn's going to take the spot just because of the closeness of him and Mike's relationship. But who knows? People say, hey, money is money. You know, if the opportunity is there, he's going to take it. Okay, we'll see. Only time will tell. But not even Dan Quinn has a master's degree. So we showed who Mike McCarthy is as the person before the coach, to show that he has certain traits and characteristics that are all going to be and have already come into play to who he is as a coach. Okay? So let's move on. If you're watching, look at this great. I got some great throwbacks of Mike McCarthy. Let me tell you. Mike McCarthy, and wasn't he cute, guys? I know men, y'all like, what? But such a kid. I had to move my face because I want y'all to see his cool hat and his mustache. Like, what a cute guy. But anyway, I have to make myself laugh because I know the guys watching this are like, oh, Lord Jesus. But anyway, so let's go into, now that we've looked at who Mike McCarthy is as a person, let's go ahead and look at who Mike McCarthy is as a coach. Okay? So, Mike McCarthy's first coaching gig was in 1987 as a defensive graduate assistant at Fort Hays State University. Did y'all hear what I said? So this is something else that I didn't even know. So I've already found out two nuggets that I had no clue about. One, Mike McCarthy is a highly educated man in that he has his master's, right? So graduate student, right? But then we find out that Mike McCarthy used to be a defensive coach. He literally used to coach linebackers in the defensive line. And while he was being a graduate assistant at Fort Hays, he earned his master's during this time. So Mike McCarthy was coaching as well as studying. So what does that show? It shows mental toughness, number one, because there are many people that work and go to graduate school full time. I don't know if you guys have, my viewers, if any of you guys have been to graduate school, but graduate school is a whole other ball game than undergrad. A lot more requirements. So the fact that he was doing this as well as being a defensive graduate assistant, it just shows that he's persistent. It shows that he also, as I already said, he's an overachiever, right? It shows, as I already said, that he has grittiness, he has toughness, he has mental fortitude. Because there are some people that say, I don't have time. They just kind of live off of financial aid when they're in grad school because it's difficult. It's really difficult to work full time and also, or to coach like Mike McCarthy was, and then to also be studying. So, but I found this incredibly interesting because it shows that our coach, and I looked, a lot of coaches usually, how they started off on one side of the ball, they coach that side of the ball. But this shows that our coach is so versatile. And that he has an understanding of the game that some coaches may not have because they haven't coached. Now, I'm not saying if a coach has been in a position over time, obviously he knows about both sides of the ball, but the question is, has he coached both sides of the ball? And for a lot of coaches, the answer is no. But for Mike McCarthy, the answer is yes. So that's another thing that I want you guys to think about. Because when Mike McCarthy, he's an offensive guru, right? We would even, well, I'm gonna show you when we get to the next slide, because people also call him a quarterback whisperer. And so obviously that's his bread and butter. But just to know that in his history, in the beginnings of his coaching tenure, he coached defense, not offense. Okay, so it just means that he has a well-rounded understanding of the game. I hope you guys are feeling what I'm talking about. Uh, I hope you guys are definitely feeling what I'm talking about. And also, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a brief break, and I'm going to bring in Veep, our vice president of Blast Music, so he can show Artist of the Week.
Yes, indeed. Good stuff, Star. I appreciate that. So, everybody, I want you to take a moment to listen to this artist who's a part of Blast. His name is Hakeem Romance, and this is called Balance.
SOE. Hey, look. You done put some things that's heavy on my soul. So heavy I can't carry it, I lose control. Whoa, 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 whoa. Balance. Oh no, no, no. Oh no, 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 I'm back at it. I'm about to pull a big flex out. City boy chillin' with my chest out. Dust off my shoulders, I'm the best out. I'm a romantic bitch, never let her out. I'm about to act a donkey. Only if it want it. So let it until the morning. Shawty wanna take a ride on my pony. Ayy, what do we have here today? Shawty, you eating, time to percolate. Put on your birthday suit, I like it. Something I can grab onto, yeah. I'm on, take it out, then you roll up at a log, take it out on you, yeah. Where you trying to go? Just say the word and let me know. I show you things that you never seen before. Just don't cross that line, I'll leave you behind disrespectfully. You done put some things that's heavy on my soul. So heavy I can't carry it, I lose control. Whoa, 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 whoa. Balance. Oh no, no, no. Oh no, 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 I'm back at it. Fresh, but you can look day. Fucking with a real who well. Too clean, gotta slide on the bitch. Tell her to keep dreaming, make a wish. I know you want it, babe. Hurry before it's too late. Don't keep me waiting now. Don't keep me waiting now. You can pull up, do what I say so. 50 shades of romance, you never let her go. This what you wanted, right? No backing out tonight. This what you asked for. Don't worry, I plan to give you more. Where you trying to go? Just say the word and let me know. I show you things that you never seen before. Just don't cross that line, I'll leave you behind disrespectfully. You done put some things that's heavy on my soul. So heavy I can't carry it, I lose control. Whoa, 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 whoa. Balance. Oh no, no, no. Oh no, 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 I'm back at it.
And that is our boy Hakeem Romance with Balance. And if you are an independent artist or even a spoken word poet, or maybe an up and coming comedian looking for some exposure, you can go to blastmusic247.com and register for free. That's blastmusic247.com, changing the industry one artist at a time. All right, back to you, Star.
Thank you, Veep. And shout out to King Romance, because that was fire. I'm going to definitely go download that as soon as I get off of here. Okay, but anyway, let's get back into the presentation. So again, talking about how Mike McCarthy ended up getting his master's at the same time that he was a graduate defensive assistant for Fort Hays State, and that he has coached linebackers and the defensive line. So just in totality, our coach has a unique understanding of both sides of the ball. Why? Because he's coached both sides of the ball. Okay, and then let's transition into a pivotal point in Mike's career. So in 1989, he became a volunteer coach without pay. I chose to emphasize, or to let me pause on without pay, because it just shows the love of the game, and it shows that Mike worked for everything that he had. It's not like thousands or millions were put in his pocket or anything like that to coach football. He coached football when he wasn't even getting paid to do it because he loves the game. But anyway, so in 1989, he became a volunteer coach without pay for the University of Pittsburgh. At this time, Coach Paul Hackett was the head coach. And so we're going to get into, we're going to segue and dig into Coach Paul Hackett. Because once we dig into Coach Paul Hackett and you see that Mike McCarthy was nurtured by him, it's really going to get you excited. But so in 1989, that's when he went to the University of Pittsburgh. He was hired by Coach Paul Hackett. And then in 1992, he became the wide receivers coach for the University of Pittsburgh. So Mike McCarthy's known for being a quarterback whisperer, right? But he also coached the wide receivers. Like Mike, I think probably I don't think he's coached the offensive line, but he's coached a lot of positions on the field, okay? It's pretty much the offensive line and the secondary is the only two positions that he didn't specifically coach himself, but for the rest, he coached. Awesome and amazing. Okay, so let's move on because I want to talk to you guys about Coach Paul Hackett. And we got to segue and do a whole little mini presentation. We got to do a spotlight on Coach Paul because that's going to be able to give us more insight on Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy obviously flows from Coach Paul Hackett's tree. And if you guys don't know, Coach Paul Hackett is the father of Nathaniel Hackett, which Coach Nathaniel Hackett was the Denver Broncos head coach last season, which he did get fired. He did get fired, unfortunately. Let's play a sound of that. Yeah, he did get fired, but still, I just wanted y'all to say, when you hear these names and you're like, is he related to here? Yes. So he is the father of Nathaniel Hackett. And you guys also may not know, but Nathaniel came from Green Bay. So he was under Mike for a while. Nathaniel Hackett took over offensive coordination after Mike left, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, so let me go ahead and get into Coach Paul. So that's not my right one. Oh no, it looks like I'm appearing to miss something here in my presentation, guys, where I'm supposed to be going over Coach Paul. You guys give me a second. Let me ensure that's not here. Nope. Okay. I apologize, guys. It looks like that slide is in my presentation is missing out of here, but I'm gonna just go ahead and I have it here. Actually, I'm gonna do something real quick, guys. I think I can probably build a plane while it's in the air. Just quick. Let me see. See how fast I can do this. Because I really do want the viewers to be able to see this if I can. But if I can't, I'm not going to take too much time. I don't want too much dead time, but I did want to be able to show this. I'm not sure why it was missing, but I think I can get it in here really quickly. Okay. We'll just do this real fast, guys. Sorry. Boom, got it. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna click through here. We're gonna have to, it's a little bit out of order, but that doesn't matter because anyway, so look at that. I think that took like maybe 30 seconds. Okay. Anyway, so who is Coach Paul Hackett? And sorry to my listeners, because you guys can't see anything. Who's just listening, who will be listening on the radio show and things like that. But of course, I want y'all to be able to see the presentation too, if y'all when y'all go to the YouTube channel. But anyway, so Coach Paul Hackett is a Bill Walsh disciple. If you don't know who Bill Walsh is, you should know who Bill Walsh is. I'll just give you two points to let you know who Bill Walsh is. He's the founder of the modern West Coast system. So how we identify or how we know about the West Coast system today, that was created by Bill Walsh. And then also Bill Walsh is the coach that led the 49ers to 3 Super Bowls, head coach with Joe Montana, who's pretty much in everybody's QB, what they call Mount Rushmore, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Yeah, so that's who Bill Walsh is. Okay, so if you want to know some couple of other guys that came from Bill Walsh's tree, Andy Reid, John Gruden, Harbaugh. And when I say they're from his tree, meaning that his assistant coaches coached, his assistant coaches, then from them flowed the Andy Reids, the John Grudens, the Harbaughs. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by that. So Coach Hackett was the QB, was the QB and wide receivers coach for the 49ers from 1983 to 1985. He was also the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys from 1986 to 1988, right? And so he is the QB coach. He was the quarterback's coach when they won the Super Bowl, I believe it was 1984-85. He was the quarterback's coach. So that means he was the one coaching Joe Montana when they won one of their Super Bowls. Just know that. Okay, so I need y'all to get a feel of rich legacy. That's the whole point of me talking about this. We got to know the rich legacy, the type of cloth, right, that Mike McCarthy is cut from. Because a lot of y'all got Mike McCarthy. I'm not going to say the word because it's too explicit, but a lot of y'all got him effed up. That's the best way I can describe it. A lot of y'all got Mike McCarthy effed up in the sense that y'all don't understand who he is. Y'all don't understand the pedigree. Y'all don't understand who he comes from. So I had to let you guys know. I had to put everybody on notice to let y'all know that this is who Mike McCarthy comes from, right? And Paul Hackett was also the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs from 1993 to 1997. He's the one that played the huge role in getting Montana to Kansas City. His offense made playoffs 4 out of the 5 seasons. So just to show you the type of pedigree, right, that Mike McCarthy comes from, I got to show you who coached him, right? Who did he come up from? Okay, so. And guys, honestly, no, I think I can get through the whole thing because I was thinking like, I may have to put some of this in part 3, but no, I think we good. So we're going to continue. Mike McCarthy, the coach, the beginning, right? Because I'm showing y'all who he was as a coach before he transitioned into a head coach for Green Bay. Okay, so in 1998 through 1999, Mike McCarthy was hired as the QB coach of the Green Bay Packers, who was the quarterback at that time? Brett Favre. So Mike McCarthy coached. So how many? Okay, this is his first. I believe this is his first Hall of Famer that he coached. So the first Hall of Famer Mike coached, Brett Favre. So that's one. Let's keep up with how many Hall of Famer quarterbacks he's coached. Okay. And something that I wrote, I had down in my notes is that Brett had a good season under Mike McCarthy, threw fourth most yards in his career, and they had a top 10 offense during that year of 1998, 1999, right? So remember that. So QB successful, Hall of Fame quarterback successful under him, had a top 10 offense, okay? Then we move into his stint when he went to the New Orleans Saints. So he was the offensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints from 2000 to 2004. And look at this here. Coach Mike led, did y'all know this? This is crazy, but Coach Mike led the franchise to the first playoff win in franchise history. Is that not nuts? That's crazy to me. Like, because you don't even, the New Orleans Saints don't even, Mike McCarthy really should be, I don't know, I should have looked that up if he's in the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame, but he provided, right? He wasn't the head coach, but he was the offensive coordinator. So a huge part, provided the Saints their first playoff victory in franchise history. So let's clap it up. Let's give Coach Mike, we got to give Coach Mike a hand clap, because people out here act like Coach Mike is, they'll let you, they'll say he's a bum and all those things. That he's not smart, even though he has a master's degree, and he doesn't know football, even though he's coached both sides of the ball, and and he's coached Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and they did really well under him and had top 10 offenses. But anyway, let's keep going. So then he also won NFC Assistant Coach of the Year. He had a top 10 offense with the Saints every single year, and y'all let me know, who was the Saints quarterback? Y'all remember the Saints quarterback during this stint? A lot of y'all probably don't even know his name. Because I'm going to be honest, I didn't know his name. I had to look it up. Y'all know who the quarterback was at this time, put it in the chat. And then during Mike's tenure, his offense, they broke 25 individual records. They broke 25 individual and team records. Okay, so basically, he took the New Orleans Saints from nothing to something. But let people tell it was, when you think about the New Orleans Saints, you think of who? Drew Brees, Sean Payton. But Mike is the one who put that franchise on the map, really. So y'all remember that as well, okay? And then in 2005, he was hired as the OC of the San Francisco 49ers, which was just a wash of a season. This was the year that they had just drafted. This was under Coach Mike Nolan. Coach Mike Nolan. So I wanted to, Coach Mike Nolan really had you thinking like, I'm not see. Oh, okay. I was trying to play my. This is how Coach Mike Nolan had us feeling. That's how Coach Mike had us feeling. So, Coach Mike Nolan. If y'all don't know who Coach Mike Nolan is, Coach Mike Nolan is the coach that led our defense to be the worst in franchise history in 2020. So anyway, I just wanted to laugh about that, because we can laugh about that now. It was not funny at the time, but we can laugh about it now, because now we have like one of the greatest defensive coordinators. We have an amazing defense. But in 2020, that was a hard year. Anyway, but during Mike's time as an offensive coordinator with the 49ers, wasn't great, just because they got rid of their only veteran quarterback because they drafted Alex Smith, and then Alex Smith literally got hurt like the seventh week of the season. So, and was out the rest of the season. So, but that was the only time that Mike McCarthy, wasn't successful, because he did not have a quarterback at all. Okay, and so we're gonna keep going. Let's see here. Okay, so then we go over to Mike McCarthy, and y'all give me a second so I can get my face out of the way. All right. But anyways, then we go over to Coach Mike McCarthy as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So this is the core, not the core, because the core is who he was before leading up to a head coach, right? Being discipled by Coach Paul Hackett, who was a disciple of the great Bill Walsh, right? You know, leading the Saints franchise to their victories, coaching Brett Favre, also coached. I feel like something's missing because I'm missing. Yeah, there's something because I'm like, what happened to my information regarding the Kansas City Chiefs? Okay, but Mike McCarthy was also the head coach. You know what, guys? I'm missing a couple of slides because I'm missing a slide because I also had to go over. There's a whole bulk, a whole slide another slide that I'm missing. So I also apologize about that, guys. I guess I just didn't realize that when I was uploading these things, and that's okay. Star will be better. I'll be better on my next stint because I really wanted you guys to see that as well. Because we really got to know, because there's another piece that I really got to get you guys to wrap your head around. Y'all give me a second. I'm gonna also build this plane while it's in there. It's pretty simple. I'm gonna just save it right now. I apologize about this, guys. We will make sure that next time all the slides are there. I don't know why it did the way that it did, but it's okay. We're going to put this in. Here we go. All right. So we're just gonna click through this because I gotta bring up this as well. It's extremely important. Okay, so because I need y'all to, we got to talk about this first before we delve into who Coach Mike was as a head coach. Okay, and so from 1993 to 1994, Coach Mike was hired by Kansas City Chiefs along with Paul to be the quality control assistant. At this time, the head coach was who? Marty Schottenheimer. Ding, 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 ding. Do we know where's that name come from? Schottenheimer. Oh, our new offensive coordinator, who is Brian Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer is Brian's dad. Okay, so if you guys were wondering, you know, what is the connection between Mike and Brian, and why when we're watching their press conferences and stuff, they seem like they have this close relationship? It's because they do, because Mike also was coached and molded by Coach Brian. Okay, so he was a quality control assistant during this time. And just to give y'all a little background on Coach Marty Schottenheimer, he's top 10 all time in career and regular season wins. He's also the coach, he's the coach with the most wins that never won a Super Bowl. Yeah, so just to know that even though Coach Marty obviously didn't reach the pinnacle, Mike, who was one of his disciples, did, right? Because we know Mike was able to pull off the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. Okay, but I just wanted y'all to know that Mike, he just comes from winning. He comes from the roots of the NFL. That's where Mike comes from, the roots of the NFL. Okay, and at this time, Mike also worked with another Hall of Famer, Joe Montana. Exactly. Okay. So, and then there's an excerpt here that I wanted to pull up, that I wanted us, the viewers, the listeners to know what is quality control. Because I think I've heard that term so many times, but I've never been like, I don't know, I didn't know what a quality control coach or assistant was. So I had to do my research and look it up. And so I'm going to read this to you guys. It says contemporary coaches are always searching for an edge over their opponents. Now that the computer age is upon us, the analyzing has become more technical. Many of those coaches have assistants called the quality control coach. However, the quality control coach doesn't really do much coaching at all. They spend all day multitasking, breaking down film up to 5 weeks in advance, and analyzing data. Let me read that again. It says the quality control coach spends all day multitasking, breaking down film up to 5 weeks in advance, and analyzing data. Okay, they work all hours in hotel lobbies, airplanes, and things like that. They pretty much coach the scout team to ensure that the starters, are prepared for Sunday. They study the opponent's tendencies and all this type of stuff. So, remember when Coach Mike McCarthy took that? Y'all may not remember, but Coach Mike McCarthy, when he left Green Bay, he ended up taking a hiatus year in 2019. 2019, he did not coach. And he said that, he was reviewing the data and analytics. And a lot of people like to say that Coach was lying and he's not a numbers guy or an analytics guy and all of this type of stuff. But this shows the opposite. Coach Mike has been a quality control assistant, which is all focused on analyzing data. Right? So for all of us who's, because what we call them, the stat nerds, right? Mike McCarthy is also or has been a stat nerd. I think Mike McCarthy, and when we know about his education level and things like that, I think Mike McCarthy definitely believes and looks at the numbers. He's not a guy, and he's never said that he's hated analytics. He believes in analytics. So that should give a relief to the stat nerds to know that Mike McCarthy does believe in analyzing data. He did it before during the beginning of his foundation, and he did it with Hall of Fame Joe Montana, right? So when we have a coach that's done all of this, right? Because Mike McCarthy literally was solely he was responsible. What it's showing you is that Mike McCarthy was responsible for preparing Joe Montana every week to know his opponents. So, because there's some people that started to say, oh, he didn't actually work with Joe Montana. He absolutely did work with Joe Montana. He had to. He was a quality control assistant. So he was responsible for preparing him every single week. So let's get rid of that myth. But anyway, and then in 1995, 1998, he was a Kansas City's Chiefs QB coach, where he coached Rich Gannon. And during this, if you guys don't know who Rich Gannon is, NFL quarterback, pretty good quarterback. I'd say very good. I don't know. We can say that he was elite, but he did have a pretty solid career. His best year, I believe, was when he transitioned to the Raiders under John Gruden. But under Coach Mike, he had all of his quarterbacks during this time, which was Rich Gannon, Elvis Gerbonk, and Steve Bono, right? During this time, Mike had to navigate, just so y'all know a little bit of backstory, Mike had to navigate a QB controversy between Rich and Elvis, because when Elvis went down, Gerbonk went down, Rich Gannon stepped in, and Mike was winning with him. They won like 5 games in a row, leading into playoffs, but then Coach Marty literally decided to let Elvis play, and then they lost the playoff game. So, but Mike was navigating a quarterback injury, right? Which would show us why he was really successful showing us why he was really successful, or his success this year when Dak this past season when Dak went down. But under Coach Mike, his quarterbacks had the lowest number of interceptions in the AFC. They only combined had 52 interceptions. So it just shows the efficiency of Coach Mike. I wanted to put that in that little bullet point, or nugget in you guys' head, so that you guys can also put your mind at ease about Dak and the interceptions. Because Mike's quarterbacks don't really throw that many interceptions historically. So just know that the issues that were going on with the offense and miscommunication and all those things last year or last season, they're going to be quelled this season. I can promise you that. Okay, so we're coming up, guys. I'm going to see if I can, we're just going to go into this. Yeah, because now we're going to transition. I should be able to knock this out in the next 5 minutes. But now we're going to transition into who Mike McCarthy was as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Okay, so as his team, under his tenure at head coach, which he was from 2006 to 2018, he coached Brett Favre. All right. Then he coached Aaron Rodgers. So during Mike's tenure, he's had the opportunity to coach 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks: Joe Montana, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. We know Aaron Rodgers is not in the Hall of Fame yet, but he's pretty much first ballot guaranteed to be in the Hall of Fame. Something important: he finished his first season 8-8 without his starting quarterbacks, Favre and Rodgers. Okay. He had the best win-loss ratio of a head coach in the first 25 starts, which was surpassing Vince Lombardi. Okay. I repeat that. Best win-loss ratio of a head coach in his first 25 starts. Led the team to an NFC championship his second year as a head coach. Won the Super Bowl in 2010 versus the Steelers with 8 players. I'll say it again, with 8 players on injured reserve as a wild card team. Y'all see what I'm talking about? Mike McCarthy's grittiness and toughness. Like, this man has had to overcome obstacles to get where he's at, both as an individual and as a head coach. Okay. Led Aaron Rodgers to his first MVP nod in 2011, where Aaron threw for 4,643 yards and 45 touchdowns. This was the same year in 2011 that he surpassed the franchise record of most consecutive wins, 15-1. He won 5 consecutive division titles, 8 consecutive playoff appearances. I'm putting all this in to know that so that you guys know that when Mike McCarthy was the head coach and the play caller of the Green Bay Packers were, I believe that all these facts that I'm giving you show that they were a powerhouse. They were a powerhouse under his leadership, under his tenure, under his play calling. And then one more thing that I want you guys to know is that, remember, it was super controversial in 2014 when the Green Bay Packers, remember, they broke our hearts. They broke our hearts big. I was going to say broke our hearts bigly. But that was the year that I believe everybody thought that we were going to the Super Bowl. But instead, instead of going to the Super Bowl, they declared Dez Bryant a no catch, and we were sent home. So yeah, so the Packers, Mike McCarthy sent us packing, but then they lost to the Seahawks, and that was super controversial because people were upset that he didn't give the ball to Aaron, and let Aaron run the game. And one of Mike McCarthy's famous quotes was, "I came to run the ball." Okay, and so that should also tell us that Mike McCarthy, because some people have been questioning, is Mike McCarthy really going to run the ball? Does he really want to run the ball? He's just going to come out here passing, because traditionally with Aaron Rodgers, he just wanted to pass the ball all day long and all of this type of stuff. But Mike McCarthy lost a playoff game because he wanted to run the ball. Like, Mike McCarthy 100% believes in running the ball. So let's not believe that's not a. I think that pretty much solidifies that he's it's not a myth, it's not a game. Mike McCarthy believes in running the ball because he's explained it in many of his press conferences. But running the ball not only helps your offensive line, it helps it helps your quarterback, and it also helps your defense because it helps you control the pace of the game, which then means your defense is rested. Okay, and we're going to go to our last slide, and then we're going to wrap up for tonight, guys. And this is just a chart showing us that Mike McCarthy, during his time, this is a chart that I got from Bobby Belt. Shout out to Bobby Belt. You guys know that he's a Cowboys content beat writer, reporter. He's on The Fan, right? He has the Love of the Star podcast with Brian Broaddus. And he put this chart out to show us that every year that Mike McCarthy called plays, which was from 2006 to 2014, just about every year he had a top 10 offense. So for those who are concerned about Mike calling plays and his efficiency, he's been very efficient as a play caller. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, and then we're going to let out today. And then next week, y'all got to come back because we're going to get into part 2. Okay? But so what have we learned so far about Coach Mike? 1, he's a gritty man. Mike worked for everything he has. Not only has he got that type of personality trait from his parents who were blue-collar workers, but also from him grinding and coaching while he was also in school full-time. For him, opportunities were not given to him. He earned the spots in which he was placed in. Also, his education is important to him. He's an overachiever because he didn't just stop at the bachelor's, right? He went up to graduate school. He has coached both sides of the ball, which means that he is versatile. He's a second-generation Bill Walsh disciple, which is my favorite point, which means that his roots are from one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. He coached or worked with multiple Hall of Fame quarterbacks, so he has a rich pedigree. That's huge for Dak Prescott. Again, that's huge for Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has never had a coach, a head coach that has had this pedigree and that has had the ability to work with Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I said, actually, he's a numbers guy because as I showed you guys that he was a quality control assistant in which he worked with Joe Montana, preparing him every week for the games, and he pretty much runs a top 10 offense on a consistent basis, regardless of who he had at quarterback. Because remember, I asked y'all, I said, who was a quarterback during his stint with the Saints? It was Aaron Brooks. And Aaron Brooks was a decent quarterback at that time, but he wasn't all world. Aaron Brooks is not going to be, he wasn't Hall of Fame or anything, but still Mike McCarthy had a top 10 offense with him. And then the last point, Mike McCarthy is a winner. Okay? He is a winner. I'm going to play my button so y'all know he's a winner. All right, guys. So that is my conclusion of my presentation today. You guys have been amazing. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. I know we went a little bit long, but I got to squeeze this out for you guys so that next week we can keep trucking along and I didn't have to go back over this stuff and extensively. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to Stargazer Sports, where today we talked about why this is part 1 of why Mike McCarthy will lead the Cowboys to a Super Bowl in 2023. You guys stay blessed. If you guys would like to, please follow me on all my social media platforms. You can see them down below on my Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook. Please donate to the channel so that I can continue to put out content and upgrade all of my equipment and things like that so that you guys can get an even greater show from me as, time passes on. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time. I will turn it over to Veep, or we'll just go ahead and end the show right here. Thank you so much, guys, and you have a great night. See you guys next week at 7.